bit that we do all these fancy presentations, spend hours and hours in doing fancy presentations, and then we put a few tips and tricks together on the train on the way here, and everyone rates this bit as the favourite bit. Start with David, is it? Yeah.
Thanks, Rob.
Right, so we've just got 2 tips this evening. Really simple, both topography. So this first one, Topo Section Box. I've got a sloping site, it's a topo surface. It looks a bit boring, it doesn't really tell you it slopes very much. Even if you look at it from the side, you can see it's just very thin. You can see the slope, but it's not really communicating what it's doing. So this simple tip, if you know this, it's obvious. If you don't, it's interesting. Is just to add a section box and cut the topo surface with it. So we'll just get up Properties, switch on the section box in the view. These always run either faster or slower than you think you're going to speak. So then I look at the top view and select the section box, drag it into the area of the topo surface. And then the magic is that when you flip back to the corner view, the 3D view, suddenly the sides of the topo surface are revealed, the depth. So if you're putting a building on that, the building is sitting on a little block of earth rather than sitting on a very skinny bit of site. There, just at the end there, I just switched off the section box in the view. So you'd have a view template that would do that. So that's the first one, really straightforward. Second one is even more obvious if you know it. Topo triangulation edges. If you're editing your topo surface, some people just use pads. Some people need to get in there and modify the surface. These topo surfaces are triangulated surfaces. They're just a series of points that define a triangulated surface, and Revit runs triangles, constructs triangles between the points you give it. So here we are and the trick is we can switch on those triangulation edges in VV. I make them pink so they show up, and then when I'm back in the editing environment, I can see the edges of the triangles that Revit is constructing, and as I move the points around or edit them, move them up and down, then Revit regenerates the triangles, and it might change them. It's not a surface that you're dragging about. Revit regenerates the triangles every time, and so you can get some quite odd effects, but at least if you've got the edges on, you can see what's going on. That's the trick. That's me done. And then it's now tracking view ranges.
The sound is on. Yeah.
Hello. So these tricks are not entirely new, but sometimes they can be forgotten easily. So the first one is how to set the view range in a family editor. So the good old view range that we all know where to get it in the project environment, right? So nothing is selected, the floor plan is open, click the button, here's the view range. Now for some reason, in the family editor, if you have nothing selected, the view properties are not there. So where did it go? They're hidden. If you select on the project browser the floor plan view, the view properties are unlocked and there they are. Who of you did not know where to find these? Just thank you. Okay, more than one. That's good. Thank you. Next one, how to measure multi-segment lengths. Let's say that if you want to extract, say, a length of a wall, of a line, anything in life, you just select the wall, in this case, and then the length shows up, even though grayed out, as the properties of the wall. But If you try to select more than one wall segment, in this case I'm going to tap to select the whole chain of walls. Now the length parameter turns out to be blank. So how can we measure that? If you go to the measure tool, if you click the drop down, you have the measure along element. And if you tap select, and this time selecting the whole chain of walls, then at the top left corner you'll find the total length for the segments that you've just selected.
See now?
It's always difficult following as a group after the soundtrack. Really difficult. So I'm going to do a couple today. Transferring shared parameters. So obviously Kevin's presentation earlier on, we talked about parameters quite a lot. Now, obviously if I've got an existing model without any parameters in them and I've got a template with lots of parameters in them, I might want to take one to the other. The easiest way to do that is simply to go to, as I'll show here, simply to go to transfer project standards and go to project parameters. Dead easy. It's a little bit of a large hammer to crack a nut though, because actually that's going to transfer every single parameter that's in that template into that project you're using. You might want to be a little bit more selective, but if you do transfer project parameters in that way, they'll all go into the right categories. A slightly more precise way of doing it is to run a schedule. Okay, if you run a schedule, you can choose, I don't know, we did IFCs earlier on, so I think it's probably appropriate that I use the IFC parameters. You can grab the IFC parameters, run a schedule, just a blank schedule, nothing has to be in it. Right click, copy to clipboard, and then go to your project and go to modify, paste from clipboard, and that has the effect of copying in those shared parameters to the project without having to manually install them into the project one by one. So if you've got a template, you've got lots and lots of parameters in it, you don't want to install every single parameter that exists within that template into your project, then you can simply run a schedule, copy that to the clipboard, paste it through to the main project, and that will have the result of copying those shared parameters from A to B, the ones that you want. Just by a show of hands, who knew that? Who didn't know that already? I like to get more than 50%. Combine parameters. 2017, new feature added, but it seems to have gone unnoticed by a lot of people. Say, go to a door, create a door schedule, take width, take height, and has anyone noticed this new button called Combine Parameters at the bottom here? Click on that, take the two across, call the parameter something like size, put a separator between them, such as times, and you now have width times height. Press OK again, and voila, you have concatenation in Revit. Woo! Few limitations. Yeah, I didn't want to get you too excited. Few limitations. You can't use that parameter anywhere else other than the schedule, unfortunately, which is a real pain in the derriere. Because what you'd really want to be able to do is stick that into a label and be able to stick that label onto a drawing to annotate that as well, or even be able to export it to whatever schedule or external database that you want. So fingers crossed, Autodesk will add that sort of feature in the future, but at least we're one step forward in terms of being able to combine this data. It's a very slow process with Autodesk in these things. You know, we've been asking for this for about 10 years now, so we've got one step closer. For those of you who don't know, I think I've showed a previous tip where you can actually use Dynamo really, really easily to do actual concatenation. So if you want to, BS1192 numbering, for example, if you took all the individual names from a parameter, because you've now got the Dyno player in Revit, it's very, very easy with Dynamo to create a quick definition in there which grabs all of those parameters, feeds them into a single text string and feeds that back into a shared parameter, and then just put that as a button in Revit so that anybody can use it in the Dyno player. That will also allow you to concatenate strings, so combine strings like what we're doing here Just by a show of hands, who didn't know that button was there, had been added? Yeah, they like to make these things a secret. Yeah, they weren't very well advertised.